Hi everybody, it's John back with another model inbox review. This is probably another aircraft I won't have to introduce, but I'm going to anyway. Today we're doing a inbox review, or rather an inbox review, on a model of the Blackburn NA39 Buccaneer, but this is the S Mark II variant. The Buccaneer had a particularly interesting history because it was built for the Royal Navy to operate on their wide-angle flight deck aircraft carriers as a tactical strike fighter. And one of the major problems you had with quite large fighters operating on aircraft carriers was their very high landing speed. And to try and alleviate this problem, the designers of the Buccaneer utilised what was called the bleed air from the engine and fed it through vents in the aircraft's airframe vents, and passed it over the flying surfaces and control surfaces of the aircraft. And this had two really useful effects on the aircraft during operations. You could reduce the aircraft's landing speed to around about 120 miles an hour, which meant that you could quite easily catch most of the arrestor hooks on the aircraft. You could actually put the Buccaneer down on virtually any of the arrestor lines that you wanted, because the field of view forward was actually quite good, and the landing speed for jets was actually quite good as well. But the blown air system actually made the aircraft's control surfaces incredibly effective, which gave the Buccaneer incredible handling at low speed, and it is still probably one of the most manoeuvrable non-swing wing fighters ever used by any nation in the world. There is actually a famous quote by an F-111 pilot during Red Flag Week in the 1970s, when the Buccaneers from the Royal Air Force, when the Royal Air Force first acquired the Buccaneers in the 70s from the Navy, when quite a lot of their aircraft carriers and fixed wing aircraft had been disbanded with. The RAF took the Buccaneers to Red Flag Week in America, and they were flown tactically against the F-111s, and one of the F-111 pilots very famously said, "Oh my God, have you seen how that thing shifts?" And he was talking about an S-2B that flew through the middle of the valley and actually outpaced an F-111 below 900 feet, and then outturned it, even though the F-111 had swing wings. The guy just couldn't keep up with the Buccaneer. It was just so versatile. Anyway, what I want to do quickly, first of all, is just go through the boxing history. The kit we're doing an inbox review on today is not this one, but I do want to bring your attention to this particular kit. This is the S1, or the NA39 Buccaneer. This was the first Buccaneer model that was released by Airfix, and it's actually, although it's not that good, it's also not that bad. It's difficult to explain. And I'll explain it more so better probably in the conclusions, but the kit actually has an awful lot of moving parts, and the Buccaneer S1 really did look as bad as the Airfix kit was trying to portray it. It was a little bit underpowered because it was powered by Bristol Siddeley Gyron Junior turbojets, which meant that the aircraft, it's almost as though it needed the bleed air system just to get off the ground properly. It was very underpowered and very underdeveloped, and the S2, when it appeared, was a very, very welcomed fighter ground attack platform to the Royal Navy. But this particular kit, I want you to be brought to your attention because this kit actually is quite a fun build. It came in three distinct eras of boxing. You had the NA39 Buccaneer, which was actually the prototype, and Airfix produced this kit as the prototype. And then you had what was called the Buccaneer Mark 1. This is a Type 5 boxing, I believe, with this famous piece of text underneath, a low-level naval strike aircraft. And this was the Buccaneer that had the revised Royal Naval markings, which operational version of the S Mark 1. And then you had what was called the Blackburn Buccaneer Mark 1. This was actually the S Mark 1, and this was the Panatoy marketed version of the kit on the famous blueprint boxings, and I wanted to show you this image to show you basically what the kit looks like when it's finished and built up, which was quite interesting. I do actually think that he's used an incorrect colour blue on the top of there. It looks too grey to me. It should be a slightly more bluier colour. And also the tail, the nose cone was more of a sandy tone, sort of desert yellow rather than a mustard yellow. I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but it was a little bit more brighter than that. But it does show you exactly what the first tooling of the Airfix Buccaneer looked like, and I think it wasn't that bad. Don't get me wrong, it's not a great kit, but it did sort of represent an S Mark 1. That's really what the S Mark 1 sort of looked like. Anyway, the boxing history on the kit we're looking at today first appeared in 1989 in this guise, and it was released by Humbrol Group under the ownership of oh god, what were they called? Borden Incorporated. And it was released in their first style boxings that were designed by Humbrol Group, and this was the Louvre design. And this artwork was utilised by the boxings to come in the future for quite a number of years. It was quite heavily utilised, and the kit stayed in Series 3, which was quite unusual. And when you see how much you get in this model, I was surprised that even now I'm surprised that it's not a series. Well, that it was released as a Series 3 kit. It's actually released as a Series 4 kit now. Although you can't get this particular kit anymore. Thank God that Airfix have produced this latest Buccaneer, and I'll show you an image of that in a minute. But this was the S2B Hawker Siddeley Buccaneer, because Blackburn were now Hawker Siddeley. And this was the edition released in 1989. In 1991, the boxing was changed. The artwork was the same, but the boxing was changed to have this white, if you like, window frame around the outside, or picture frame around the outside of the image. And you had Series 3 1/72 scale written in the left bottom right hand corner here, and that was basically the major changes to the box artwork, and that appeared in 1991. And then in 1991 you had an unusual kit. You have to remember that in 1990 Saddam Hussein's forces moved and invaded the Kuwait and caused massive destruction in Kuwait, and of course the response was Operation Granby and Desert Storm. And Airfix released two kits. We actually released 3 different models of Desert Storm, one incorporating an F-16, a Tornado, and I believe an F-111. There was another kit released that was comprising of a Puma, a Sea King, and a Lynx helicopter. And there was this kit which comprised of a BAC Jaguar GR Mark 1 and a Buccaneer S Mark 2B. And they were released in hemp camouflage for the first time, which is quite interesting because the kit I'm doing, the RAF version that you can get, is actually this plane on this particular boxing in hemp camouflage during Operation Granby. That kit was released in 1991, and then in 1992 you had a return of the picture frame windowed boxing of the Buccaneer. The only difference between this boxing and the previous one is that you had the flying hours on the front page. You had 1 flying hour here, so you can see that's how you tell the difference between the 1989 and the 1992 boxing. Then in 1994 there were 2 kits released, exactly the same style of boxing, but this time with a later generation of boxing releases. You can also see something new that you'd never saw before, and that was an oil rig in the background here, which is quite interesting. So this aircraft must be flying over the North Sea. You also had the skill level box, this rated at skill level 2, and the 1/72 scale Series 3 symbols were put in the left hand bottom corner. You also had 2 different styles of this type of boxing. You had the A style box with HS written in black and Buccaneer written in yellow, and you had the B style box where the HS would have been written in yellow and the Buccaneer would have been written in black. But this was a starter set which was released early in 1994, and simultaneously, of course, in 1994 you just released They also released a standard box without all the paints and the brushes and everything else. But it was the same kit that you got. This box was fitted in a blister pack with all the stuff above it. That's 1994, and then also in 1994, the Mexican model company Lodela also got their hands on the Airfix Buccaneer for the probably for the South American market, and this kit was released by Lodela in 1994 in virtually exactly the same box. It just had their logo and some Spanish stuff written on the front page, front box lid there, and a splash there of some stuff there written in Spanish obviously as well. That's the Lodela release in 1994. Then in 2010, with Airfix being owned by Hornby Productions Incorporated, the kit was released in a red style boxing. I think this is boxing type 15, I think. And this is the box that I've actually got a copy of. This is the boxing, the 2010 release. And as you can see, there are three versions available. There's the S2B Buccaneer, which served Operation Granby in the Gulf War. There's the S2D, which is actually the last production Royal Naval Buccaneer that served, I think it served an Ark Royal. And you had the S Mark 50, which was a South African Air Force variant. And there are decals for this, all incorporated in this model, and this is the model that I'm doing an inbox review on. Then, in 2019, I just want to just ponder on this particular kit just for a moment. This kit is a new tool Buccaneer S Mark II, and it's a C variant. I don't know an awful lot about what the variants are, but anyone who's got this model, they're probably aware that it is an extremely well engineered and beautifully accurate kit of the Buccaneer S Mark II. And the thing that's quite interesting about this particular kit is that this year it's going to be released in these two variants. Now the livery artwork is also subject to change, but the interesting thing about this is that this is an S2B in Royal Air Force service during the 1980s and very early 1990s, and this is artwork of a Buccaneer, I think that's an S2C, which actually operated in RAF service in as late as 1992. They were relinquished from service pretty soon after the Gulf War, but there was still a version of the Buccaneer operating at squadron level until the end of 1992, and it operated in grey camouflage scheme, as you can see here. I've seen photographs of this grey scheme and it is apparent, but I haven't got any photographs of these green and part camo bits and bobs here. And also I've noticed that on this particular Buccaneer image you've got this part that's not camouflaged, and I don't know, but I think it's possible they've got these two air intakes round on the wrong way, because the image I've got, the aircraft is completely grey except for the stores, and the images that I've ever seen of the Buccaneers that served in the RAF, they were all wrap camouflage apart from this one. These were the guises of the Buccaneers when they first went into RAF service in 1979. I think they went in 1979. And they were light grey underside, exactly the same camouflage patterns as the late 70s Phantoms and Jaguars, and also the Harriers that operated in the Strike Command at the time. And the Buccaneer was no exception. I actually quite like this camo pattern, but I'm tempted to do the Royal Naval version because I quite like the look of that as well. I think that could look quite nice. So anyway, that's an image there, and I'm sure Airfix, the new tool Airfix Buccaneer, has got amazing praise from critics and reviewers alike. They absolutely adore it. It's fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll quickly palm down to the image we've got here and try not to make too much noise with this camera stand, because I know you guys don't like the camera stand. I've had a few comments that are quite funny. Pull it back a little bit, can I? Maybe. There we go. That's better. Right, take the lid off. Here's the box. It's a nice shiny box. I like the red boxings that Hornby do with these kits. They're quite nice. The kit is now Series 4, as you can see, serial number 04049. And we'll just open the box. One of the first things I noticed about this particular kit is that there's a lot of plastic in it. There's quite a lot of plastic in it. Anyone who's bought the new tool Airfix Phantom as well, they'll note that there's an awful lot of plastic in that kit. I bought that kit last year and there is a lot of plastic in that kit. I was very, very surprised. But we'll do this in-box review in exactly the same way that I always do. In the instruction leaflet with the first Hornby release, you've got a lithograph. And we'll have a look at that in a minute because that shows the paint guides. But what I want to do first of all, show the instructions. Typical A4 instruction leaflet from Hornby Productions for an Airfix kit. You've got HS Buccaneer S2B, S2D and S-Mark 50 at the top, with lots of information and stats about the Buccaneer in various different languages, and Hornby product, Hornby Hobbies Limited, Margate and Kent, written at the bottom. The kit builds up in 19 steps. We're on the second page, which is the first page you turn over. You've got the assembly instructions in lots and lots of different languages again, and some assembly icon instructions at the bottom there, telling you what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Quite easy. And then in section 1, you've got really what I think is the only criticism I've got of this kit. The kit's not actually that bad, if a little bland in detail, in moving bits and bobs. There's not an awful lot that happens with this kit. But basically, the major criticism I have with this kit is that the cockpit bathtub is actually built into the upper section of the fuselage half, which means painting the interior on this kit is not going to be as easy as if it wasn't. If it was a separate entity, it would be a piece of cake, but it isn't. The pilot figures, I've got something to say about those as well because they're a bit weird. And the pilot seats there, they go into the bathtub with the centre section for the WSO's instrument panel, which has a decal there, which is quite nice, part 72. And then in the forward section, you've got a decal for the pilot, which is part 73 on the decal sheet. Then you've got a gun sight there, which is quite easy. The interior of the Buccaneer is actually stating it is the right colour, colour 27 in the Humbrol range. The interior of the Buccaneer is a sort of a bluey sea grey. And then you've got, in the bathtub, some decals for the side panels, for the instrument panels there, and you can see them. So I would paint the bathtub up with the seats in place, and then I would paint the pilots, put the decals in place, and put everything together. That's the order I would do things. And then in section 2, you're building the lower fuselage half, which incorporates the 2 Spey engines, forward turbines. And then you've got an option for which bomb bay to put in. You've got the bomb bay which goes in the Operation Granby RAF variant, which is actually an extended fuel tank. Because the Buccaneer had to fly extended ranges at low level. And also that is an option which can be used on the Royal Naval version. The S2 Royal Naval version, you could also have an expanded bomb bay to house a fuel tank. Or you could have part 11, which is a standard revolving bomb bay door. And this is an option for B and C. B and C versions being the Royal Naval variant and the South African Air Force variant. And then you turn the page and you go into section 3, which is marrying the 2 fuselage halves. Well, not a lot going on there, but they do suggest you put a 5 gram weight in there. I would suggest you put a bit more than 5 grams in there. I'll put a couple of lead shot weights in there. No problem whatsoever. I think the Buccaneer kit would need it. And then you paint the interior of the air intakes, both upper and lower surfaces, you can see the numbers there, in a light aircraft grey, semi-matte light aircraft grey. And then in section 4 and 5 you've got the main wings, no problem there. Section 6, 7 and 8 are the nose cone, the what's called a tail stabilator. It's often called a T-tail. It's also called a tab sometimes. And in section 8 you've got the tail fin. And then in section 9 you're marrying all those parts up to the sub-assembly, including the wings. Everything, no problem whatsoever. And then you've got another option here, part 113 and 114, which are different wingtips required for the RAF version flying in Operation Granby. Also, they're telling you to paint the air intake lips silver, G11. I would actually use, if you've got one, titanium silver acrylic paint from Tamiya. It's a better colour to use. Now then, section 10, you're putting the undercarriage assembly together. It's not too difficult. The colours chosen there seem okay, dove grey. I would probably paint them the same colour you paint the interior of the air intakes, but there you go. What am I to choose? And then you've got options for stores, missiles, glove tanks and slipper tanks, all of which are put onto the aircraft in section 18 with the stores loadout. Quite easy, and they're showing you which variants carry which stores and all the rest of it, no problem whatsoever. And then you fit part 67, which is the wing mounted pitot tube. No problem whatsoever. Buccaneer I always thought had interesting undercarriage. It was quite hefty. And it's also angled backwards, which aids the modeller in stopping this thing sitting on its tail. Section 19, you've got some options there for some aerials. You can see them there. And then you've got other options for aerials. An in-flight refueling probe, part 68. Another couple of aerials, part 24. They are on every Buccaneer picture I've ever seen. And then you've got the 3 glass parts, which go to form the canopy cover. Part 77 there is actually the blast shield for the WSO if the pilot ejects before he does. You have a blast shield there which protects him from the blast from the rockets on the ejection seat, and that is a feature that's found in every Buccaneer as well. So that's the instruction leaflet, quite easy. The paint guide is on a lithograph and it's quite a nice lithograph. It's in full colour, so there's no excuses for getting the parts and colours wrong, and it's beautifully drawn. Really like that. And then you've also got option 1, the S2B, and on the back you've got the other 2 options. You've got option 2, which is the S2D board, which was embarked on HMS Art Royal in 1976. That's quite nice. I might do that variant. I quite like that. And then you've got the South African variant, the S-Marks 50, which again is in quite nice colours as well. I quite like the look of that too. That looks quite good. Yeah, like the nose cone on that. Very nice. So I'm quite impressed with the lithograph. That looks quite good. Transparencies. Tell you what, I'll take the scissors to these transparencies because I don't think they're going to get damaged by being loose in the box. I can always put them back in the transparency. Oh no, actually, I want to show you the decals before I show you the transparency. You've got an Airfix Club leaflet here, and on the back you've got the complaint slip. Sorry, that's a membership application form. That's not a complaint slip. The complaints now are all done online. They're done on Airfix's online site, so sorry about that. The decal sheet is actually quite nice. It's really nice actually. The decals are lovely, nice registration on them. Even the instrument decals there are really nice too. I think that's a nice touch from Hornby. Very, very well done there. The Operation Granby variant comes with shark's teeth and sinew and jaws, lin jaws. Interesting. Low vis roundels. Of course, the other ones are low vis roundels as well, but they're even less vis roundels on the Granby variant. And also, the actual decal backing film. Sorry about that. The actual decal backing film is actually very nice. It's nice and clear, and the decals seem to not be too raised, apart from these roundels here. For the Royal Naval variant, they seem to be quite raised. Not terrible, but they are a little bit more raised than most of the others, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they lie when you put them onto the kit. Transparency sprue. That's actually quite nice. I quite like the look of that. I think that'll paint up really nice. I like, you know, the fact that people do use aftermarket parts, but sometimes some of these kits produce some really nice parts, and I think that canopy is actually quite good. Quite pleased with that. That looks quite good. It's quite clear. I don't doubt you'll be able to see quite a lot of the detail through that canopy dome. No problem whatsoever. And it's nicely framed. It will paint up lovely. The parts. The parts in this kit, there are quite a lot, as you can expect. And the Buccaneer is quite a big bird. First sprue comprises only about 5 parts, but you've got the lower fuselage half here. Now there's a texture on all of these parts, especially the airframe parts. The texture's sort of, I don't know, it's like a marbled mottle effect. It's very unusual, but one of the things that I don't like about this kit also is the fact that the arrestor hook is moulded into the airframe, and it doesn't look that good, does it? That's a shame. 2 different moulded doors for the bomb bay. That's quite nice. And also, that looks like a couple of rams. The airframe. Yeah. That's a bit of a shame. The wheel wells are a bit... There's not a lot of detail in there either, is there? And also the front wheel well is pretty poor too. So, it's okay, but it's not great. Here's the part that I really didn't wish it had that, but there's the bathtub built into the upper fuselage half. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it? You have got a little bit of room there to put maybe a couple of bits of lead, bearing in mind the front section underneath has only got room for 1 bit of lead because of the front wheel well. And the wings, there's something about the wings I do want to talk about, because there are a couple of other Buccaneer kits on the market. The one I do know that there is an issue with is the Matchbox one. The Matchbox one doesn't have these vortex generators on the wings. The Frog one does. And I've seen a review where somebody married Frog wings to a Matchbox kit and produced a really nice piece of work. But you don't need to worry about this. The surface texture on the upper fuselage is actually quite nice. The wing panels are raised, as I would expect, which is a shame. The panel lines on the wings and the panel lines on the airframe are all raised, but those vortex generators, and I have looked very carefully at photographs of the direction of them, because I was concerned about the direction of them, because they look like they're facing the wrong direction, but they are actually correct. The vortex generator on the real Buccaneer is at those angles, which is quite interesting. The wing parts look quite good. I'm quite impressed with that, so I'm going to turn that one upside down then, and I can put that inside. Actually, it won't go like that, that's a bit of a shame. Put that inside there. Then we've got third sprue. There's quite a bit of flash on this kit, and I've got a feeling that this kit could have been moulded by Hella. Just has Hella. It has a Hella feel to it, and those pilots are the same pilots that you get in the F-15, and I'm pretty sure the F-15 is a Hella kit too. A lot of flash on those pilots. He looks like he's had a ready break this morning and got out of school, and you remember those adverts. There's quite a lot of flash on these parts, so I'm quite surprised about that. The tail tab, there's quite a bit on that as well. Stabulator, is that what they call it? And the main undercarriage legs. Not that detailed, are they? Not a lot going on with them. Quite surprised about that. Tail cones, yeah. And the undercarriage doors. And there's the tail fins and the pitot tube detail on those. It looks quite nicely detailed. The panel lines, you know, they are raised, but they're not that apparent. They're not, you know, they're not dreadful. You've got some stalls on this sprue and some fuel tanks. They look quite nice. Designators, the spikers, that's why the Buccaneer was needed in the Gulf War, because it was the only aircraft that could laser designate targets at low level in theatre. You've got some smart bombs, quite nice. Sidewinder there. Yeah, those parts look quite good. And then you've got a sprue with lots of little parts on it. There's the 2 turbofans for the Spey engines. And I don't know what they are. Look like some sort of stores buckets or something. Interesting. More slipper tank parts. That's the tab that goes at the back of the tail plane. There it is, sorry. That's the I think that's the WSO's cockpit display. And then you've got all these other stores here. Wing pylons. Missiles. There's the in-flight refueling probe. It's quite nice. Little bits and bobs. And then the last sprue, you've got more wing pylons and stores. Not a lot to write home about. Pretty general run-of-the-mill Matra tops there. There's the Matra rockets. Not a lot to worry about there. Wing pylons, all pretty good, isn't it? One of these parts here is actually damaged, but I'm not too worried about that because I won't be using it. I'm probably going to be building the Royal Naval version. But that's one of the parts that go in the Granby, Operation Granby RAF variant, that's hemp. And that's snapped. It would glue back together again, but I probably won't even use it because that's just the part you have to trim the wing down and then put that part onto the wingtip. So, not terribly worried about that. Let's put that into there. I'll put that all into there. That's the parts. That's the box review finished. So, give you something nice to look at whilst I go through the bump. Now then, the kit we're doing a in-box review on is the Airfix Hawker Sidderley Buccaneer S Mark II B, S Mark II D or S Mark 50. The kit's in Series 4 in the Hornby release, but was originally a Series 3 kit and moulded in 1/72nd scale, and its release date was 1989. There are decals for 3 versions. The first is a Buccaneer S Mark II based at RAF Lossiemouth, Gulf Detachment during Operation Granby, based in Maharak in Bahrain in 1991. The second is a Buccaneer S Mark II D of number 809 Squadron Fleet Air Arm based on board HMS Ark Royal in 1976. And the third is a Buccaneer S Mark 50 of number 24 Squadron, South African Air Force at Walter Kloof in South Africa 1970. The kit's dimensions are about 10¼ inches long by a 7-inch span, and it should sit about 3 inches high on its undercarriage. There are 113 parts on 6 grey plastic sprues and 3 parts on a clear plastic sprue, producing 116 parts in total. Now the options and costs they're not as vast as I originally thought they might be, but there are a few. In 1/144 scale, Welsh models do an S2B in VAC form for about £17 to £20, and then in 1/100th scale, Tamiya build an S2B Buccaneer for about £10 to £15. That's quite a nice kit. Revell also build the Tamiya S2B Buccaneer as a Reeboks Revell kit for £10 to £12. In 1/72nd scale, Airfix do the NA39 and S Mark 1. That kit can retail for anything between £8 to £18. The kit that I'm reviewing today, the S2B-D and the S Mark 50, retails for anything between £6 and £36. Yes, I've actually seen this kit sell for £36 in one of the earlier boxings. And the new tool, S2B and C, retails for anything between £19 and £29, but also I've seen this kit sell for as little as £9.50. The Desert Storm combat set, including a Buccaneer S2B and a GR Mark 1 Jaguar, sells for about £20 to £25. Now Checkmaster Resin also build an S1, an S2, an S2A, an S2B, an S2C, an S2D, all in resin and vac form multimedia kits for about £75 to £80. And there's a company called Cyber Hobby who build an S2B Buccaneer, but I think Cyber Hobby are really Dragon in disguise. I haven't got a pricing for this, but there is rumours that this kit may even have been dropped from production and it might not get released at all. Frog also build an S2A and an S Mark 50. That kit retails between £5 and £18. And Matchbox, of course, do their S2B for between £6 and £27. Scale Resin also build a really nice multimedia kit of the NA39 or the S Mark 1 Buccaneer, and that retails for £65 to £70. Now, Airfix Corporation of America also build the NA39, which is the NA39 Series 3 S1 Old Tool Airfix kit. That retails between £30 and £35. And Airfix by Craftmaster also build the same kit, which is an NA39 Reeboks, as an NA39 Buccaneer, and that retails about £15 to £20. Airfix Lodella do the S2B, which is a Reeboks S2B kit from Airfix, and that kit, I haven't got any pricings on that, but it's probably about 20 quid. Now there's another company who Reeboks the Frog kit called Chernomorskaya Yerushka, which is a Russian company. No pricings available on that, but it is quite commonly available in Russia. And Matchbox AMT do an S2B, which is a Reeboks Matchbox kit. Again, no pricings on that, but it's probably about 20 quid. Novo do an S2A, which retails for about £10 to £20. That's the old Frog kit Reeboksed. And the old Matchbox kit was Reeboksed by Revell as an S2B, and that retails for anything between £7 and £10. In 148, Airfix build an S2, an S2B, an S2C, and a D, and an S Mark 50, and that kit retails for 16 to 90 quid. And yes, I have seen it sell on eBay for 90 quid. Airways Vacform do an S2A, which is a Vacform kit, 76 to £80 for that. There's no pricings on the Raccoon Models S2, but I do believe the Raccoon Models kit is still under development and hasn't been released properly yet. And Tan Model, they build an S2A and S2B, but again the delay in release has seen this kit not enter the market yet, and I have no pricings available on that. There's also an extremely nice Vacform model produced by Aerodynamics of the S2B. Now, I have seen images of this kit built up and it's absolutely amazing, but again I've got no pricings on it, but I'm not expecting it to be under 100 quid. Conclusions. Well, I like the fact that there are lots of parts in the box with lots of stores to choose from, but I don't like the fact that the interior is moulded into the upper fuselage half. This makes the painting much more taxing. The pilots don't appear to be regular Airfix guys either, which I would suspect the kit might have originally been released by Hella. The South African Air Force version is a nice touch too, but I do feel that the older Tool S1 Airfix kit had more going for it, with its folding wings, opening nose and tail cones, and revolving bomb bay door. The plastic looks good though, and the kit looks accurate enough. It's just the lack of optional positional parts that make me wish it had more to offer. Kits worthy of note are the Tamiya Buccaneer in 1/100th scale. The new Tool Airfix kit in 1/72nd scale is an absolute gem. The 1/48 scale Airfix kit, and of course the Aerodynamics 32nd scale kits, if you can find one of these at all, are really good options. But watch out for the 72nd scale Frog S2 and the Airfix S1 kits, as they are not really that good. But the S1 kit has a lot of moving features and it's a fun build. It's also the only S1 injection moulded option available, even today. So that's the in-box review finished. I hope this video has been of some use. Any questions, comments, anything at all, just pop them in the comments boxes below, and any answers to questions I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I hope all your modelling projects are running smooth, and I do appreciate you tuning in and listening to my videos. I'm actually getting up to pretty close to 600 subbers soon, and I'll probably be doing what I should have been doing at 500 subber release, but I wasn't very well when that happened, and I couldn't do that. I'll probably do that when I'm reaching 600. We'll get a giveaway, which might involve a couple of models and maybe a couple of books. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope your modelling projects are running smooth, and I hope you're having fun building models. That's what it's all about. I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.